He said she didn't belong in that office, didn't say it outright, of course. Men like that don't have to. It was in the way he looked at her resume and raised an eyebrow, in the way he said, "Oh, you're a single mother," like it was a liability, in the way he made her feel like her daughter was a problem, not a person. But what he didn't know was that this woman had been breaking through locked doors since she was 15. Her name was Vanessa Grant, a real estate assistant trying to become a licensed agent, a mother, and the full-time caretaker of Amari, her 8-year-old daughter who couldn't speak but had a smile that could quiet a storm. Vanessa didn't come from privilege. She came from persistence, from long bus rides, back-to-back shifts, and prayers whispered over cheap coffee at 5 a.m. Her dream was simple: to become a licensed realtor, build a life for Amari where she didn't have to fight for space in the world. But dreams like that don't come easy, especially when your boss sees your motherhood as an inconvenience. His name was Jason Marks, owner of Marks Realty Group, one of the largest real estate firms in Austin. Polished, powerful, predatory. The kind of man who compliments your smile, then critiques your outfit, who says, "Take your time with your daughter," but schedules meetings knowing you'll miss them. Vanessa needed the job, needed every dollar, but what she really needed was a little bit of grace, and grace was the one thing that man would never offer. Still, she showed up every morning, hair pulled back, blazer pressed, hope stitched into every step. Even when Amari didn't sleep, even when the therapy sessions ran late, even when she cried silently in the break room before facing the day, she kept going, until the day Jason called her into his office and said 7 words that cracked something inside her. "We're letting you go. It's not working." Not working, he meant her daughter, her reality, her struggle. What he didn't know is that he was firing the wrong woman. Because Vanessa, she don't break easy. She bends, yes, but only to pick up her child and rise again. If you've ever had to work twice as hard to be seen as half as good, take a minute for yourself. This story might be closer to yours than you think. Tuesdays were sacred, not for rest, not for herself, but because every Tuesday at 4 p.m., Vanessa sat in a cold, bright room, watching her daughter learn how to ask for water. Amari had nonverbal autism, couldn't say "Mom," but she sang it with her eyes. Her therapy sessions were part speech, part occupational, part miracle. Vanessa never missed a session, not even when the bills stacked higher than the fridge, because when your child's progress depends on you showing up, you move mountains. And for a while, she thought Jason understood. When she interviewed, she was clear. "My daughter has therapy on Tuesdays at 4. I'll stay late any other day." Jason nodded, smiled, told her, "We're a family-friendly company." But family-friendly don't mean what you think it means. It meant as long as your kid stays invisible. It meant raised eyebrows when she clocked out at 3:30. It meant missed team meetings, snide comments and rumors behind her back. "She's always leaving early. Must be nice. Wish I had a kid to get out of work." Vanessa heard it all. She stayed silent, did her job, brought in 3 new clients in her second month, but it wasn't enough, because Jason didn't like women he couldn't control, especially not women who refused to apologize for being mothers. One Tuesday, therapy ran long. Amari had a meltdown, couldn't transition. Tears, screams, hands flapping like wings too tired to fly. By the time Vanessa got back to the office, it was nearly 6. She found a note on her desk. "See me before you leave." He didn't yell. Jason never yelled. He smiled and sliced. "Vanessa, we've had some concerns. You're a great person, but this role requires full commitment. It's just not a good fit anymore." She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came. Just the image of Amari, sweaty and trembling, finally saying more with her hands. She thought of the nights she'd gone without dinner so Amari could have her meds, the shoes she hadn't bought, the birthday she hadn't celebrated. "Not a good fit." She whispered it like a prayer gone wrong. Jason looked at her and said something she'd never forget. "You're a great mom, Vanessa, but this is a business." And right then, something shifted. Because when a man uses your child as the reason to erase your worth, you stop asking for permission, you start preparing for justice. And Vanessa, she had more than heartbreak now. She had proof, because what she found in that drawer wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't looking for anything, just packing up her things. Quiet, measured, the way women do when they're trying not to cry in front of a man who thinks he's won. Vanessa opened her desk drawer to grab her charger, but her hand brushed against something sharp. A folder, manila, thick, labeled in Jason's handwriting. HR Confidential. She shouldn't have opened it, but when you've just been told you're disposable, you stop playing by the rules that protect the people who harm you. Inside were notes, printed emails, schedules, not hers, others. There it was, clear as daylight. S. Adams, terminated after maternity leave. C. Mendez, absentee record, child in hospital. T. Lee, flagged for instability post-divorce. A pattern, a surgical erasure of women with families. One page had her name. Next to it, unreliable, therapy every Tuesday, not promotable. Not promotable. After all the overtime, all the clients, all the sacrifices, she hadn't been evaluated. She'd been profiled, and this wasn't just about her anymore. It was about all of them. Women who'd been quietly pushed out, caregivers labeled as unstable, mothers written off as liabilities. Vanessa's hands shook. She thought about her rent, Amari's next appointment, the hours she'd worked, sick, tired, grieving, and still smiling. And suddenly, she knew. Jason didn't fire her because she was bad at her job. He fired her because she refused to be ashamed of being a mother. She slipped the folder into her bag, not to be petty, not for revenge, but because someone needed to see this. Because silence was how men like Jason stayed powerful, and women like Vanessa stayed erased. That night, she didn't sleep. She made tea, sat on the couch, watched Amari dream, and then she opened her laptop, searched for a name she'd heard once in a hallway. EOS, discrimination claims. The form was long, the questions were invasive, but Vanessa filled in every line, because this time she wouldn't be walking away empty-handed. And when she clicked submit, she felt something she hadn't felt in weeks, steady. But just as she closed her laptop, her phone buzzed, an unknown number, a voicemail. She played it on speaker, expecting spam, but what came through froze her blood. Ms. Grant, this is Detective Ruiz. I need to ask you some questions about your former employer. His voice was calm, measured, not the kind of cop voice that makes your stomach twist, but the kind that's been doing this long enough to know when something don't smell right. Detective Ana Ruiz, not some rookie. Internal affairs, city-based, Latina, sharp as glass. Vanessa called back, tried to keep her voice steady. Hi. You left a message? About Jason Marks? There was a pause on the other end. Then, we've received multiple complaints about him, Ms. Grant. She almost dropped the phone. Ruiz didn't say what kind, didn't say from whom. Just asked, have you ever been asked to work unpaid hours? Were you ever discouraged from using your legal rights as a parent? Did you ever witness him retaliate against women who filed complaints? Vanessa's throat closed. It wasn't just her. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't alone. Yes, she whispered, to all of it. Ruiz asked if she'd be willing to meet, said there was an investigation. Quiet for now, but getting louder. Vanessa agreed, not just for herself, but for every woman whose name was in that drawer. The next morning, she stood outside the precinct in her one good blazer, heart racing, folder in hand. Inside, Ruiz welcomed her with a nod that felt like a shield. You're not the first, but you might be the one who finally connects the dots. They went through everything. Jason's comments, the Tuesday meeting scheduled on purpose, the time he made her stay late and miss Amari's birthday, only for the meeting to be postponed. Ruiz listened, took notes, then said something that caught Vanessa off guard. Did you ever notice anything off about the way Jason handled client funds? Client funds. That wasn't her department. But she remembered something, the day she processed a closing deal and noticed the commission line didn't add up. She'd flagged it, but Jason said it was a glitch in the software. She let it go, but Ruiz didn't. She leaned forward. Ms. Grant, if what you're saying is true, we're not just looking at discrimination. We might be looking at fraud. Vanessa clutched her folder tighter. This wasn't just about her job anymore. This was about exposing a man who built an empire on fear, silence, and stolen dignity. And now, his cracks were showing. But before she left, Ruiz said something else. There's someone who wants to meet you. She used to work for him too. She asked about you by name. Vanessa blinked. Someone knew her story. But who? She expected a coffee shop, a lobby, maybe even the precinct again. But Detective Ruiz gave her a location that made Vanessa hesitate. The parking lot behind the old medical plaza on 11th, right after sunset. She said it's safer there. She doesn't want to be seen walking into any government building. Vanessa understood. Some women don't get the luxury of being seen. They survive in the shadows because speaking out costs too much. So Vanessa drove there, heart pounding, hands cold. The old plaza was half abandoned, flickering lights, cracked pavement, a place where the world forgot to finish its story. She parked, waited, and then a figure approached. Black hoodie, jeans, small frame. But the way she walked, there was history in her bones. The woman stopped at Vanessa's window, tapped twice. Vanessa opened the door. Vanessa Grant? Her voice was quiet but firm. Yes. Are you? She nodded. Name's Trisha Caldwell. I worked under Jason 5 years ago. Vanessa had never heard of her, but the name was in that folder. Terminated after maternity leave. No explanation. Trisha leaned against the car, lit a cigarette with shaking hands. I had to find you. When I heard you filed, I knew it was time. Vanessa said nothing, just listened. Trisha spoke like a dam finally cracking. I was a broker, one of the top earners, closed on 12 houses in 3 months. Jason loved me until I got pregnant. Her eyes didn't blink. They told me I was being restructured, promised a spot when I came back. I believed them. She took a drag, exhaled hard. When I came back, my desk was gone. My email was deleted. HR stopped returning my calls. Jason said he'd pray for me, told me I should focus on being a mum now. She dropped the cigarette, crushed it. Vanessa felt sick. Trisha wasn't looking for sympathy. She was carrying evidence. I saved every email, she said. Screenshots, voicemails, bank statements. I've been waiting for someone else to come forward. She pulled a USB from her jacket. I want you to have this. Give it to Ruiz. I've been too scared to go back to court, but you... She looked Vanessa in the eye. You got that quiet fire. Vanessa swallowed back tears. This man built an empire on pushing women out, on rewarding men who stayed late because they had wives at home. She nodded, gripping the USB like a lifeline. Thank you. But as she turned to leave, Trisha said one more thing. Just be careful, Jason doesn't go down easy. And then she was gone. The night closed around Vanessa like a cloak. She sat in her car, held the USB, and thought of every moment she'd been made to feel small. She thought of Amari, her tiny voice in signs, the way she clapped when Vanessa tied her shoes by herself. This wasn't just about her anymore. She started the car, drove home. But when she opened the front door, her daughter wasn't in the living room, and the light in Amari's room was off. The silence was wrong. Vanessa dropped her bag, called out, calm at first, just a little too loud. Amari? Nothing. She moved fast. Living room, empty, kitchen, untouched, back door, locked. Then her mind raced. The babysitter, a college student named Erin. Reliable, kind, always left a note. But tonight, no note. Just a blinking cursor on her phone screen where a message never sent. She dialed Erin's number, straight to voicemail. Something was wrong. She checked the bathroom, then the closet, then dropped to the floor and looked under the bed, where Amari sometimes hid when the world got too loud. Nothing. And just as her hands started to tremble, she heard it. A soft tapping, then a hum. From the hallway. She turned. There, Sitting on the floor, legs crossed, crayons scattered around her, was Amari. Drawing, safe, whole. Vanessa dropped to her knees. Baby girl. She pulled her into her arms. Amari didn't resist. Behind her, the front door opened. Erin walked in, holding takeout and looking sheepish. I am so sorry, Vanessa. We went for a quick walk around the complex. I thought we'd be back before you got home. Vanessa nodded, tried to breathe. She wasn't mad, just shaken. Because when the world's already unstable, even 10 minutes of unknown feels like an earthquake. She helped Amari finish her drawing. A house, a woman with curly hair, and beside her, a door. Not a wall, a door. Vanessa stared at it. There was a key in the woman's hand. Her daughter didn't know how to write yet, but she knew how to speak in symbols. And this was a message. Vanessa smiled through tears. Amari hugged her like she knew, and at that moment, Vanessa decided she wasn't just reporting Jason. She was going to expose him. She opened her laptop, plugged in the USB, and what she saw wouldn't just shake the company, it could burn it to the ground. The screen lit up, folder after folder, neatly labeled. Commission adjustments, internal only, off-record HR notes, invoices, side agreements. Vanessa clicked. The emails were there, dozens of them, some between Jason and other managers, some with agents who seemed nervous. One, in particular, made her stomach turn. She's sweet but can't handle the pressure, always running off to that therapy thing. Let's make space for someone with fewer personal distractions. Jason didn't even use her name. She kept reading. Confidential memos about women being phased out, backdated performance reviews, instructions to dock commissions for minor mistakes only the mothers seemed to make. Then the money trail. Spreadsheets didn't lie. Jason had been rerouting funds from joint closings, skimming off assistant bonuses, charging clients extra consulting fees that never made it into company records. And the worst, one folder marked Legal, Contain and Settle. Inside were NDAs, gag orders, payouts, women who'd tried to fight but settled in silence because they needed rent or insurance or childcare, names, dates, dollar amounts. Trisha's name was there. So was someone else's, Detective Ruiz. Vanessa blinked. She clicked the file. It was from years ago, before Ruiz was on the force. Back when she was just a paralegal and had filed a complaint against Mark's Realty Group after being fired without cause. Jason had paid her off, but she never signed the NDA. Vanessa sat back. Her chest felt tight, but her purpose felt clear. This wasn't just a bad boss. This was systemic abuse, manipulation wrapped in performance reviews, misogyny wearing a tailored suit, discrimination hiding behind company policy. And now it was all on her hard drive. She emailed Ruiz, attached everything, and just as she was about to shut the laptop, a new email popped up from a name she didn't expect. Megan Waters, HR, Mark's Realty Group. Subject line, I think you're right. Can we talk? Vanessa stared. She hadn't spoken to Megan since the day she was fired. The woman had looked away, said nothing, typed while Vanessa cried. Now she wanted to talk. She clicked the message. I'm sorry for everything. I didn't know how deep it went, but I've seen it now. Jason's hiding something bigger. If you're willing to meet, I can show you. Vanessa didn't know whether to trust her, but something about the tone. It didn't feel like guilt. It felt like fear. She replied, tomorrow, 11 a.m., neutral place. I'll bring what I have. You bring yours. And as she closed the laptop, she heard Amari stirring. Vanessa walked to her daughter's room, watched her breathe, brushed a curl from her cheek. I'm going to fix this, she whispered. But the next morning, when she got to the cafe, Megan wasn't there. Not after 10 minutes, not after 20. And then Vanessa's phone rang. Unknown caller. She answered, and all she heard was, you need to stop, for your daughter's sake. The voice was male, calm, not Jason's, but someone who worked for him maybe. Too calm to be a stranger, too deliberate to be a wrong number. Vanessa froze. Her first instinct, he's bluffing. Her second, what if he's not? She looked around the cafe, felt eyes that might not be watching, shadows that might not be moving. She hung up, then called Detective Ruiz twice. Voicemail. Third time she texted, got threatened. Anonymous call. Said, stop for your daughter's sake. Megan didn't show. Call me. Minutes passed. No reply. Vanessa left the cafe, fast, paranoid. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Back in her car, she checked the back seat twice before driving. Because now it wasn't just paperwork, it was personal. At home, she double-locked the door, took photos of the USB, backed up every file, uploaded everything to the cloud. She knew the tactics men like Jason used: isolation, doubt, fear. He wanted her to feel cornered, to second-guess everything, to look at Amari and give up. But what he didn't know was that Vanessa had already survived worse. She made a decision that night. She was going public. No more secrets. No more waiting for the law to catch up. She opened her browser, typed out a post on a local women's advocacy forum. No names, not yet. Just the story. A mother, fired for putting her child's health first. Evidence of discrimination. A corporate culture of abuse. An empire built on silencing the vulnerable. She hit post, and within an hour, her inbox lit up. 32 messages, all from women. Some she knew, most she didn't. Each one carried a version of her story. He did this to me too. I was scared to say anything. Thank you for speaking. One message stood out, from an email address named mjustice87. I have documents from the finance department, real ones, from inside. I've been sitting on them for months. If you're ready to fight this, I'm with you. Vanessa replied, let's meet. But what she didn't know was Jason was watching, and the next morning, she woke up to an eviction notice taped to her door. It was bright yellow, stark against the peeling paint, taped just below the peephole where Vanessa's name used to be. Notice to vacate 7 days. No appeal. Failure to comply would result in legal action. Her heart sank. She'd never missed a rent payment. She double-checked the date, the signature, the company name, and that's when she saw it. The property management firm was a subsidiary of Mark's Realty. Jason, he wasn't just trying to ruin her career, he was trying to erase her life. She sat on the floor, legs folded, Amari still asleep in her room. Tears came, hot, silent, not because she was afraid, but because she was tired. Tired of holding it all together, tired of smiling when she wanted to scream, tired of living in a world where protecting your child cost you everything. She thought of packing, thought of calling shelters, thought of staying quiet, but then she saw it on the fridge. Amari's drawing from therapy, the one with the door and the key. She stood up. No more silence, no more shame. She took a photo of the notice, typed out a caption, posted it to the same women's forum, and then to her own social media for the first time. After speaking up about workplace discrimination, my former boss, who owns this building, sent me an eviction notice. I've never missed rent. This is retaliation. This is abuse. I will not be silent. Within hours, the post was shared over 3,000 times. Strangers commented, "We see you, not on our watch. Where can we help?" And then a message from someone unexpected, a reporter, local, investigative, said her story had reached their desk, wanted to meet. Vanessa hesitated, but Amari came into the room then, still in her pajamas, dragging her favorite blanket. She looked up at her mother, then at the yellow paper on the door. She didn't speak, but she walked over, peeled it off, folded it in half, and threw it in the trash. Vanessa knelt, held her daughter close, and whispered, "Okay, baby girl, let's finish this." Later that afternoon, she met with the reporter, brought everything, the USB, the eviction, the emails, the drawings, told her story. The woman took it all in, then said, "We've been investigating Jason Marks for months. We just didn't have a voice brave enough to go on record." Vanessa stared. "You'd be willing to do that?" the reporter asked. Vanessa nodded. Her voice didn't tremble this time. "Yes." And that's when the reporter pulled out her phone. and showed Vanessa something she never expected to see, a photo, grainy, cropped, but unmistakable. Jason Marks, meeting with a city official after hours with an envelope. Vanessa stared at the photo. Jason's posture was stiff, but practiced. The other man, a city inspector, stood with his hands in his pockets, head down. The envelope was slim, white, just thick enough to matter. "This was taken last month," the reporter said. "We've been trying to verify what was in that envelope. We think it's connected to a zoning approval he shouldn't have gotten." Vanessa's mind spun. Jason wasn't just firing women and falsifying commission records. He was working the city, greasing palms, buying silence. "What does this mean?" she asked. "It means your story is about to get a lot bigger." The reporter asked for permission to include Vanessa's documents in an upcoming exposé. She agreed. They made copies, redacted names for safety, outlined the timeline. Before she left, the reporter said one more thing. "Be careful. The last person who spoke out against Jason was followed home." Vanessa left the office gripping her keys tight. She checked her mirrors twice before getting on the road. Every turn felt heavier, but when she got home, something had changed. There was a package at her door, no return address, wrapped in plain brown paper. She picked it up slowly, opened it inside. Inside was a framed photo of her and Amari, taken without her knowledge at the grocery store last week. There was no note, no signature, just the image, two lives captured like prey. Vanessa dropped to the floor, not because she was afraid, but because she was angry. He was watching her, trying to scare her into silence, trying to remind her who had the power. But this time, he underestimated the one thing that kept her going. Her daughter was watching too, and Vanessa had no intention of teaching her how to shrink. She got up, picked up the photo, crushed the frame in her hand. Blood trickled from her palm, but she didn't flinch. This wasn't just retaliation, this was war. She texted Detective Ruiz again. No answer. Then, finally, just before midnight, Ruiz called, and what she said changed everything. Ruiz's voice came through low, urgent. "Vanessa, I'm sorry for the delay. We had to be careful. We just got clearance." Vanessa sat upright. "Clearance for what?" A beat of silence. Then, "To wire you." Her breath caught. Ruiz continued, steady as a heartbeat. "We believe Jason is trying to intimidate you. That photograph, the eviction. We've seen him do this before, off the record through intermediaries. But if he contacts you again, we want to be ready." Vanessa swallowed hard. "What do you need me to do?" Ruiz's voice softened. "Just talk. If he calls, let him talk. Don't confront. Don't accuse. Just listen." Vanessa's fingers curled around the phone. She wasn't a detective. She wasn't trained. She was a mother. A daughter of nurses and waitresses, a woman who'd worked 2 jobs through pregnancy and still made it to Amari's school plays, even when her name wasn't on the sign-in sheet. But now she was being asked to be brave in a whole new way. "I can do that," she said. Ruiz instructed her to come in the next morning to get fitted with a device, something discreet, small, worn under her shirt. Before hanging up, Ruiz added, "You should know. The woman from HR, Megan, she didn't flake. She's been missing since yesterday morning. Her phone was found in her car, wallet gone." Vanessa gripped the phone tighter. Missing. Megan had tried to help, and now she was gone. The walls were closing in, but Vanessa refused to break. That night, she couldn't sleep. Amari was restless too, kept waking up, crying in short, breathless bursts. Her sensory triggers were heightened by stress, by her mother's tension, even if she couldn't explain it. Vanessa laid beside her, held her until she calmed, and as Amari drifted off again, one hand curled into Vanessa's shirt, she knew she couldn't let this man do to anyone else what he'd done to her. The next morning, she dressed simply, wore flats she could run in, pulled her hair back like armor. At the precinct, Ruiz was waiting with a technician. They showed her how the mic worked, where the signal fed, what to say if things escalated. Vanessa nodded through it all. But inside, she felt like she was climbing a mountain barefoot. Before she left, Ruiz handed her a burner phone. "Use this for anything sensitive. And Vanessa, if something doesn't feel right, walk away. Your life matters more than any case." Vanessa thanked her and walked out into the heat. Back home, she tried to carry on like normal. Cooked Amari's favorite breakfast, scrambled eggs with too much cheese, played her calming music playlist, tried to smile even though her insides felt like glass, and then, just after lunch, her phone rang. Blocked number. She answered. Jason's voice came through, smug, casual. Well, I hear you've been busy." She didn't speak. "Just let the recorder run," he continued. "You're making quite a mess, Vanessa, posting things, stirring up lies. I thought you were smarter than that." She stayed silent. Jason exhaled. "I'm offering you one chance. Walk away. No lawsuit, no press. I'll even wipe the eviction. You and your little girl can go live your quiet life." Still, she didn't answer. That's when his tone changed, darker. "Because if you keep pushing, I promise, you'll regret it." And then he said Amari's name, like it was nothing, like it was his to say. Vanessa's mouth went dry, but she remembered Ruiz's words. She kept the line open. Let him talk. Let him bury himself. When he hung up, she stood in the middle of her kitchen and whispered, "Now I've got you." But just then, the front window shattered. The crash was deafening. Glass rained across the kitchen floor. Vanessa dropped the phone, covered her daughter's body with hers. Amari screamed, high-pitched, guttural. The chaos shattered her sensory walls. Vanessa could barely hear through the panic. She pulled Amari toward the hallway, grabbed the emergency kit she kept by the door, locked them both in the bathroom, heart pounding, hands bleeding. She whispered into Amari's ear, "It's okay. I've got you. Mommy's here." Amari rocked back and forth, eyes wide, hands over her ears. Outside, silence. Then, tires screeching away. Vanessa called Ruiz. 1 ring, 2. Finally, Detective Ruiz. "They broke my window," Vanessa gasped. "Right after the call, I recorded everything. He threatened her. He said her name." Ruiz didn't ask questions. "We're coming. Now." Officers arrived within minutes. Ruiz wasn't far behind. They dusted for prints, took the recording, logged everything. Ruiz's face was hard, jaw clenched. "This changes things," she said. "He crossed a line tonight." Vanessa sat on the couch, shaking. Her daughter finally asleep on her lap, wrapped in blankets, headphones over her ears. "I don't care what happens to me," Vanessa said softly, "but I need to know she'll be safe." Ruiz nodded. "You have my word." And then she reached into her bag. "I want you and Amari to stay somewhere else tonight, somewhere secure, a safe house, unlisted, quiet." Vanessa didn't argue. She packed what she could in silence, left the broken glass behind, took the drawings, the USB, the burner phone. Before leaving, she looked around the apartment one last time. This place had been her sanctuary. Now it was just another crime scene. But as she stepped outside, her neighbor, Mrs. Ellis, an older woman who rarely spoke, was waiting. "You leaving?" she asked. Vanessa nodded. Mrs. Ellis handed her something, a Polaroid photo of a black sedan, parked outside the building. 3 a.m. "I seen it 3 nights this week," she said. "Didn't look right. Figured you'd want this." Vanessa took it with trembling hands. Another piece of the puzzle, another witness ready to speak. And as she drove away with Amari asleep in the back seat, she made a vow. Jason Marks would never hurt another mother again. But the real surprise was waiting at the safe house, because when Ruiz opened the door, the woman inside was Megan, alive, hiding, ready to talk. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, dark circles, hands trembling, hair tied back in a rush that hadn't ended. Megan stood behind the door, eyes darting past Vanessa like someone might be following. Vanessa stepped in slowly, holding Amari's hand. The girl clutched her favorite blanket, eyes heavy but curious. Ruiz gave her a gentle nod, guiding her toward a back room set up just for them. Then Vanessa turned back to Megan. "I thought you were—" "I know," Megan said, voice hoarse. "He thinks I'm gone. I let him think that." She sat down, pulled out a flash drive from her boot. I saved everything, every report, every payout, every conversation I was forced to delete. I made backups. I couldn't look the other way anymore. Vanessa listened, not with shock, but with the kind of stillness that only comes when you already knew the truth. "Why now?" she asked. Megan blinked back tears. "Because of her. Your daughter." She looked toward the back room. "I was in the meeting when Jason found out about her therapy sessions. I remember exactly what he said." Her voice cracked. "If she's that committed to a broken kid, she'll never commit to the company." Vanessa's stomach turned. "He said that?" Ruiz asked, pen stilling in her hand. Megan nodded. "He said worse. We were told to log every minute Vanessa left early, to ignore any emails about accommodations. We weren't supposed to flag it as discrimination. Just label it under performance concerns." Megan dropped her head in her hands. "I let it happen to so many women." Ruiz leaned forward. "You're here now. That counts." Megan looked up. Steel returned to her eyes. "That's not all. I found something buried in the finance logs. He's funneling campaign donations through shell real estate projects. He's paying city officials, zoning board, inspectors. That envelope? The one from the photo?" Ruiz nodded. "It had a check in it. 50,000. To push through an illegal land development on the east side. He's trying to buy out low-income housing and flip it. And he's using fake companies run by people who owe him favors." Vanessa took a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. "So this isn't just about firing women?" "No," Megan said. "It's about power, control, erasure. He ruins lives and builds skyscrapers over the wreckage." Vanessa stood slowly. "So let's tear it down." Ruiz took the flash drive, logged it, secured it in evidence, then turned to Vanessa. "We're going to need you tomorrow. Press is ready. The DA's office is watching. If you're willing to go public, we can move on this." Vanessa didn't hesitate. "I'm ready," Megan whispered. "You sure?" Vanessa looked toward the room where Amari was sleeping. She saw the little shoes by the door, the crayon drawing clutched in a tiny hand, a door, a key, a woman standing tall. "Yes," she said, "I'm sure." But before the night ended, Ruiz's phone buzzed. She picked it up, her face paled. Jason's lawyer just filed a cease and desist against the station and sent a private investigator to the reporter's home. Vanessa didn't flinch. "He's scared." Ruiz nodded. "Good." But what none of them knew was that the next morning, Jason would hold a press conference, and he'd call Vanessa by name to try and destroy her. The podium gleamed. Jason stood behind it in a designer suit, flanked by men with power and women paid to smile. Live cameras, news crews, polished lies. "I've built a company based on integrity," he began. "I will not be dragged down by false accusations from a disgruntled former employee." Vanessa watched from a safe-house TV, arms crossed, eyes dry. He was saying her name now, full name, slandering her in real time. "She has a history of instability. Her performance reviews speak for themselves. We made reasonable accommodations, but we are a business." The reporter from the exposé was texting her live. "We're almost ready. Stay sharp." Jason ended his statement with a smile too wide to be honest. And then he walked off stage, cameras still hot, mics still recording. A young journalist followed him into the hallway. "Mr. Marks, do you deny allegations of financial misconduct and gender discrimination?" Jason scoffed. No comment. But before the door closed behind him, another camera caught it. Jason turning to his assistant and saying, "She should have just stayed in the kitchen." The clip went viral in under an hour. "Stay in the kitchen" began trending. But not for him, for Vanessa. Women started sharing their stories. "I was fired after maternity leave. He told me I'd be more useful at home. I was let go after my son's diagnosis." And then the news dropped. The full exposé, headlined, "The Empire Built on Silence." Vanessa's voice, clear, calm, raw. Her face blurred slightly, but her message, crystal. Amari's drawings, the files, the threats, all of it. And at the end of the segment, the reporter held up a key. This was taped inside the final folder Vanessa gave us. It was labeled For the next woman. Back at the safe house, Ruiz turned off the TV, looked at Vanessa. It's time. Court filings had already begun. The EEOC launched a formal case. A criminal investigation opened into Jason's finances. The women who'd settled, now speaking up. And as Vanessa stood to leave for her formal testimony, Amari walked up to her, held out a piece of paper, a new drawing. This one showed a woman standing in front of a huge building. And this time, the door was wide open. Vanessa knelt. "You drew this for me." Amari nodded, pointed to the building, then to Vanessa, then to her heart. "I'm proud of you too, baby," she whispered. And as they walked out of the safe house, into the courthouse, into the light, Vanessa didn't feel small anymore. She wasn't the woman they almost erased. She was the woman who walked through the fire and held the door open behind her. Jason lost everything in pieces. First, the board removed him, then the investors pulled out, then came the lawsuits. Megan got her job back, but not at Mark's. She joined a women's legal non-profit, helps others find their voice. The reporter won awards. But more than that, she gave women the space to speak. Ruiz, promoted, still carries Vanessa's case file in her briefcase, says it reminds her why she started. And Vanessa, she got her license, now a certified real estate agent with her own firm. It's called Keys Without Doors. And on her desk sits a framed drawing, a building, a woman, a door open wide. Every client who walks in sees it. Many ask about the name. She always smiles. "Because sometimes the world gives us walls instead of welcome mats," she says. "But when you carry courage, you don't wait for someone to hand you a key. You become the one who opens the door." And her daughter, Amari, still has therapy on Tuesdays, still doesn't say much with words. But one day, as Vanessa locked up for the night, Amari tapped her shoulder, handed her a sticky note. 3 words, messy handwriting. "You're my hero." Vanessa wept, because justice didn't come easy. But it came. Not as revenge, but as restoration. She thought she worked for a man who had all the keys, but in the end, she was the one who knew where the real door was. If this story reminded you of yours, let it live in the comments. Because sometimes, my dear, the door ain't locked. We just need the right key and the courage to turn it.